I listened to Dave Meltzer's Wrestling Observer Radio today. He had some notes on the WWE roster cuts. Apparently, Gallows and Anderson, who have been signed since 2022, have done relatively nothing and have been mostly appearing on NXT when they have been doing appearances lately. His what he was saying was they don't usually like to pay wrestlers that are making in the millions to be on NXT. So he's alluding that they may have been making in the millions of dollars. So no surprise there why they were cut. Sonya Deville was being used a lot, but she wasn't adding anything to the product. She's pretty much the biggest ones of the cuts that people they may not have been shocked by, but she's the one that was being used the most. Everyone else they weren't really using. There might be more cuts to come. He brings up that Paul Ellering is 71 years old. He's not sure why they brought Ellering back. They also brought AOP back and then released them in the recent cuts. He says they were overall a flop of being the next Road Warriors. Meltzer says he has no idea at all why they brought them back because when they were first brought in, they weren't wrestlers, they were athletes. And usually, after you cut guys like that the first time in WWE, they won't bring them back unless they get some type of an indie buzz about them, like Drew McIntyre, for example. When he was cut the first time, he got a buzz about him on the Indies. The AOP didn't wrestle at all on the Indies. They didn't do anything in the time they were gone. So it doesn't even make any sense why they brought them back. One thing I was thinking about with Ellering, although I mean I loved him when he was managing the Road Warriors in the AWA. I think that was the peak of Paul Ellering. If you look at his WWE runs, the Road Warriors WWE run, by the way, Rocco was his idea. He's on record saying that on a video on this channel. It was horrible, the Rocco thing. Then he came back and he managed the Harris twins during the Attitude Era, which was a flop. And his managing of the AOP was a flop. So in reality, although he's definitely a Hall of Fame manager for his time with the Road Warriors, I think I could safely say in a non-argumentative way, all of his WWE runs haven't been good, without question. Meltzer also pointed out that at 71, the only person also in a major company around that age is Jake Roberts as a technically on-air manager. I'm not sure how old Jim Ross is, but Meltzer also points out that although Roberts is in AEW, technically under a big contract, they never use him either. But it seems like for whatever reason, Jake Roberts is safe in AEW. They just recently re-signed him last March, and I think they may have used Jake Roberts 2 or 3 times since he was re-signed. So the one thing I'll say about Jake Roberts, I mean, 10, 15 years ago, he was having to do indie shows to make a living. So this must be a great blessing. Maybe God's paid him back for his religious work in the late 90s. Because it seems to be a blessing from God that he's pretty much been with AEW since the start, hardly done anything, and has had a cushy contract. Which, by the way, speaking of cushy AEW contracts, Mercedes Moné makes over $5 million a year in AEW. She didn't even wrestle 15 times in the past year. It's ridiculous the amount of money that they pay wrestlers. Last night they were in the Houston area, including comps. They had 2,480 in a building that seats anywhere from 8,600 and is expandable to 10,000. So again, it's listed right on the building's website that it has a 10,000 seat capacity. And apparently, this is what I don't like about AEW. Tony Khan came out at one point in the show and said it was sold out. According to Dave Meltzer, there was 2,480 people in the building. How can you be in a 10,000 seat arena with 2,400 in the building and claim it was a sellout? Oh, well, we're only going by the areas that aren't curtained off. I'm sorry, but I'm sick of hearing about these sellouts where they include the areas that are curtained off. It's not sold out if you've curtained off like 80% of the building. Let's just talk about reality here. Like stop trying to tell me that 2,000 people in a 10,000 seat building is sold out because you've curtained off 80% of the building. That is just ridiculous talk. I mean, the other thing Meltzer was talking about on his podcast was one of the issues with AEW right now is the wrestlers that need improvement aren't working enough dates to improve.